All right, welcome back to another episode of Diabetes 180. I definitely missed you guys, and last week we had to take a break due to me traveling. But I really get excited anytime Mondays come around. Really, I look forward to that every week. So I hope you guys who've been watching and have been enjoying these episodes and look forward to these meetups because I definitely do. And tonight's topic is one that I definitely have to start with the introduction because I have to explain why we're talking about parasites and diabetes in the first place, right? So that's going to be the question of the half hour. Do is there a connection, or more specifically, do parasites cause diabetes? Right. So we're going to talk about why this is even a question in the first place. Is it valid? Okay. Is it a valid concern that someone who has diabetes, if of course it's caused by parasites, then the next logical conclusion is how do I get rid of them? It's actually interesting. When I put out this live, I got an email the same day from one of our followers asking how can he cleanse his body from parasites. So I hope you're watching because I'm going to answer that, well, indirectly answer that concern. So if parasites really do cause diabetes, I would want to know how to get rid of them, right? But we're going to be measuring fact and fiction and allowing you to come to your own conclusions, right? It's interesting that this parasite diabetes question comes into play right now because I've been, studying diabetes specifically for the last, I'd say, almost 4 years. Health in general for longer than that. I've been a health nut and look, and especially when it comes to nutrition for over a decade, really. Health enthusiast for longer than that, but for diabetes specifically, I've been reading articles and in journals, of course, practicing diabetes reversal with my clients who are type 2 diabetes patients in my clinic, and never once have I ever come across the issue of parasites, okay, in my readings or my studying. So you can imagine my um confusion for the past, I'd say, almost 4 or 5 months, maybe six. Uh, every week, sometimes every day, when I got a consultation, oh, at least one of those consultations, someone would be asking about parasites. It actually came to a point where I was getting consultations every single day where the question would come up, what about parasites? So hopefully we're going to alleviate some concern and fear. And I urge you to share this information. This is very important information. Okay. I think it's very important to clarify misinformation because it's so easy to spread. So we're going to be talking about that. But starting off, why is it so popular? Social media. Okay. Social media, it loves parasites. All right. And it's interesting, it's not just diabetes. So let's start off with that. How many of you guys, and mention this in the chat, and I should say this, let me pause before I go forward. You guys who are watching for the first time, we have a chat room open. So that's why this is live. So you can bring questions that I could answer directly. If you have been watching and you're a frequent follower of Diabetes 180, then you know the drill. Let us know you in the comment section that you're here so we can greet you and say hello. But why is it popular in the first place? The idea that parasites causes diabetes. Well, parasites are just a popular thing. Okay. I mean, you look on parasites, there's parasites for almost every chronic condition or disease as the cause of it, right? And it's a great way to sell things, right? There's a great way to sell supplements and treatments and cures. If I cure my body of parasites, then I can accomplish XYZ. But is there any truth to it? Another reason why it's popular, I think, is because it's a quick fix, right? If I can blame diabetes on a parasite, then I don't really need to change my diet, right? And we know that changing your diet is a hard thing. There's a saying that goes that it's easier to change your religion than to change your diet, right? And how many of you guys have experienced that? Like trying to change the way you eat, it's a hard thing. So if you hear or read on the news or watch something on social media that says, "Oh, you got a parasite, you just got to take this supplement or this treatment will get rid of this parasite," and voila, diabetes gone. It sounds great, right? It's wonderful, right? Another reason why I think it's popular is because um, Unfortunately, there's a lot of mistrust in the medical community, right? There's a lot of mistrust, and some of it is warranted. Unfortunately, in the medical community, we are focused on controlling symptoms, not reversing disease. So when you see something online that says that the secret is out, right? Diabetes can be cured, we believe it, right? Or things that say that, the medical establishment has lied to us. Parasites are the cause of diabetes. We pay attention because we know that the medical institution is not really interested in cures. So it opens up a pathway or a door for social media influencers, health influencers to provide that cure to you. So I would say that's probably the second reason why this idea of parasites and diabetes is so popular, because it presents a quick fix and there's a mistrust when it comes to medical community, right? Doctors and physicians. But I have to say, by and far, I think it's the first thing I mentioned. It's that sensationalism. It's that, I mean, parasites are disgusting, right? Who wants to be told they got a parasite? I'm like, ill, right? It's like nasty, right? So just it's a clickbait. It's something that gets people to make viral videos, right? And again, of course, doesn't hurt that they can sell something on the side, as they promote these viral videos. So we're going to go through some of these videos and some of these claims in social media. But let me know if I'm the only one that's has noticed videos, or maybe they've started to calm down in social media that link parasites to diabetes. Let me know in the comment section if you've seen any of these videos or even social media posts. All right, so but let's ask the question of when did this actually happen? When did this start to explode? Because there was a very specific time frame when this started to blow up, and it makes sense to me because it wasn't until the last several months that I started hearing about it. So it made me think to myself, well, Lewis, I wonder if there was a time frame to this social media craze on parasites and diabetes. There's always been a craze for parasites, but when did people start connecting parasites to diabetes? So it was actually late 2024, early 2025 that we started seeing videos going viral for this idea of parasites and diabetes. So I'm going to share one of them here. So this is one, high blood sugar caused by a rare parasite. This was on a Facebook post in November 22nd, 2024. And in this post, the person claims all diabetics have a common fluke parasite, which is, as in, fluke parasite is a type of parasite, parodic, pancreatic fluke of cattle in their own human pancreas. Right. So that's some, to me, of course, is an attention grabber. And this was actually something that was made popular by a scientist by the name of Hulda. Let me see if I can see the name there. Clark, Hulda Clark, and she writes in a book, The Cure for All Diseases, that most diseases, including AIDS, cancer, and diabetes, were caused by different parasites and can be cured with an electric zapper. Personally, once I read electric zapper, my antennas goes up a little bit. But it obviously became very popular. The book and the person, I'm sure themselves, became very popular, right, in promoting this idea that parasites are the cause of multiple diseases, and then specific for our topic tonight, diabetes. Now, I should also add that Miss Clark, she claims she is a doctor in physiology, however, has no formal training in diabetes treatment, is not a medical doctor, which is just a big deal to me because I feel like it doesn't matter how many letters you have behind your name, you could find information you need today to heal all manner of diseases. This is why I bring the spiritual into play, because I believe that all diseases, whether you talk about something as serious as cancer or something as simple as the flu, have very, even if they're complex in nature, these diseases have simple cures, right? And this is by design of our creator. God does not want us to suffer. And so he's given us the medicine for all manner of illnesses in the environment, and then specifically in the food around us. So it's all about just connecting the proper lifestyle to combat these diseases, or even better, of course, to prevent them, right? So Let me pause and read a comment we're getting from Betty Jean. Thanks for watching. There's a video supposedly from Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil created a drink with honey and other ingredients or something for Dr. Phil's wife. So I mean, just think about it. It's so easy to think of one drink, one supplement, one treatment, right? And that's going to cure you from your disease. But it's not that simple, right? It really is not that simple. I'm hoping, Betty, that your antennas go up when you hear that too. That there's some, just drink this drink and you're cured. I'm sure there might be a sales tag attached to it, but yeah. So this is the idea that I think prompted this thing to go viral. Mainly this very influential health influencer that wrote a book, and that's a lot of times what it starts with. Someone writes a book or has an experience, and it may be true, it may be really true, maybe something really did happen with that person, or maybe persons under that person's care. But we have to be very careful when we read information, even if it's from somebody who has credentials behind their name, because anybody can say anything online. That's the beauty of social media, right? Everyone has a platform. So we have to check and vet our information, right? And make sure that there is evidence behind it, right? Scientifically based evidence, right? And compare and contrast all studies on the topic to make sure we come with a balanced conclusion, right? So there is not much balanced conclusion to be derived from some of this person's claims. That's why this person was not only sued, but also prosecuted for this misinformation, right? It's very dangerous. But we know it doesn't stop there. It doesn't matter if the person's debunked. People kind of take that information and run with it. This is another post. I think it was posted in December 2024 that went viral about a doctor exposing the link between diabetes and parasites. So this is around the time we see this idea start to really pick up. And again, piggybacking on the idea of a very specific parasite that this Dr. Clark claimed all diabetics have. Okay. So she claims that all diabetics have a parasite called, I'm going to try to say it, Erythrema pancreaticum, and that it can multiply in someone's pancreas when they consume wood alcohol, or otherwise known as methanol. Um, and she claims that this gets exposed to us, to our body, by food packaging facilities using this methanol to clean machinery. So that's how we get exposed to it. Is this true? Is there science behind this? And I think if we're going to talk about parasites, talk to a specialist in parasites. And that's what, of course, what's beautiful about the balance of information, right? You could say anything, right? Online, you can claim anything, but you best believe someone's going to challenge you. So luckily, we have organizations that are fact-checking organizations, independent nonprofit fact-checking organizations, who are designed to take viral information that's posted on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, and investigate its truth. And if you're interested in knowing what these were some websites that are recognized to do that, I can provide that if you want. But luckily, this is one of those things that did get checked by these organizations and was revealed to be false claimed. So one of the things that they do is they talk to specialists in the field. So when you talk to someone who specializes in parasites, is this true, right? So that's what they did. But this, before we go to those statements and fact checking information, this is another post that went viral. I think March 2025. So going closer to now, showing you that this is something that's still being claimed. In this specific video, they claim that there's a Japanese compound that eliminates this parasite, cleanses the pancreas, and normalizes blood sugar levels. And of course, we know, big fat false. Okay, it's just not true. It's just not that. I would love it to be that simple. And while I just did say that God made things simple when it comes to healing us from diseases, it does require effort. Okay. But that's the beauty of it too, because I feel like in the effort, right, in striving, you also thrive, right? You also grow. So, and that's what life is about. Life is not just about the destination, but the journey to get there. And Yes, it's a devastating diagnosis to get diabetes, but I always encourage people that it could be the best news that ever happened to you because it forces you, it challenges you to change your ways in so many good ways, right? And you the life transformation, right, through improved habits don't just better diabetes, but it betters you in so many ways mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? Thank God it's not just a quick fix, right? Because when God fixes you, he doesn't just fix one thing. And that's what is beautiful about using natural remedies um the right way. Natural remedies, when I say natural remedies, using food as medicine and changing your lifestyle habits to improve health outcomes. Um, that's God's way. Okay. It's transformation of just not just body, but character too. So these are moving on to some other examples of social media posts that talk about parasites and diabetes. So we know this is something that's still going on today, unfortunately, but we need to fact check this information always. Just because it's online does not mean it's true. Okay. I'm sure you guys would agree. So this is a statement from a parasitologist. So I didn't know they had those people who specialize in parasites. This article was actually published in National Library of Medicine, and his statement uh, on this specific parasite that was um, claimed to cause diabetes, that human infections of pancreaticum are a rare event and occur only when someone eats infected insects such as grasshoppers and crickets. So, how many of you guys watching have been eating insects lately? Show of hands. Somebody know. Let me know in the comments. Maybe as a kid, maybe you did once, but probably not. I would venture to say, right? Unaware of reported human cases in North America or Europe where consumption is uncommon. So, when you look at places where people don't generally eat insects, you don't see this parasite infection. Surprise, surprise, because that's where it comes from. So, I mean, even just stopping on that idea alone, that parasites cause diabetes, then you should think to yourself, well, then if parasites are the cause of diabetes, then the places that have the highest parasite infections should have the highest diabetes rates. And on the flip side, the places with the highest diabetes rates should have the highest rates of parasite infections. And if that's not the case, right? When you look at the map and global areas where parasite infection is high and diabetes rates are high, they don't match up. Right. So that should be the biggest thing that kind of poses a red flag to this information. Right. And this is what this leading expert in parasites is saying. All right. So what else do specialists say? So this is another article, and reading it says suggested that a different. This article suggested that a different parasite could cause similar changes to the pancreas of cows as some disorders, including type 1 diabetes. Because remember, the first quote we read was that this parasite is one that tends to infect cows, a fluke parasite that affects cows. We are not cows. But they are saying that even when it does affect cows, it could produce similar changes in the cow as type 1 diabetes. However, studies show, we go on to read that this did not claim to find a link between parasites and diabetes. And interestingly, they say that it does warrant further research. So this is definitely something we should continue to study, right? Um, so a next statement that I think is worth reading that sheds some light from a specialist. This is actually a professor in biochemistry. Robert Screeton writes that there is some research into whether people with diabetes are more susceptible to parasite infections. Right. So in other words, there's research that reveals that people with diabetes are more prone to get parasite infections, but there's no evidence to suggest that there is causation. And that is very important to differentiate. So when you talk about experimental studies or research, there's this term called causation versus correlation. That correlation, meaning something being tied to another thing, correlating, does not mean it caused it. Um, Perfect example of this is that bring keeping it in the realm of diabetes, we know that diabetics are more likely to get heart disease, right? The chances of someone having heart disease and diabetes correlates. That does not mean that heart disease causes diabetes, right? Cancer, same thing. Now, there are some cancers that are more prevalent in diabetics, right? When someone has diabetes, they're more likely to have to be diagnosed with certain cancers. That doesn't mean that cancer causes diabetes, right? Very likely it's the other way around, that diabetes makes you more prone to cancer, heart disease, or parasite infections. Okay. So we have to make sure that when we read studies that tie or connect certain conditions, that the correlation between those two conditions does not mean that one caused the other. And it's usually hard to find out which one caused the other, right? So let me actually stop right there. So let me think about let's think about this for a moment though. So there is also the issue of the immune system. Okay, that makes things a little bit more complex or complicated when you talk about infections, whether you're talking about parasite infections or viral infections, because one thing we should first understand, that there are more than one type of diabetes, right? We know that, right? There's type 1 diabetes, and then there's type 2 diabetes. Starting with what we know, that gives us a lot of information. Number one, we know that both type 1 and type 2 diabetes and gestational diabetes, and what we'll talk about in a moment, autoimmune disorder or latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, all have one thing in common: insulin, right? In type 1 diabetics, their pancreas is not producing insulin at all, right? Or it's producing such a little amount that it's ineffective to do what insulin does: take sugar out of the cells, out of the blood, and put it into the cell, causing high blood sugar. In type 2 diabetes, your pancreas makes insulin, but it's not working sufficiently, right? It's being resisted. And so we know that there is insulin at the center of all types of diabetes. What is beautiful, though, is that if we learn to eat in a way that makes our body sensitive to insulin, high blood sugars improve, diabetes improves, no matter what the cause or type, right? So that's where we focus on diabetes 180, on insulin resistance, making your body sensitive to insulin. It doesn't matter what caused the diabetes, it doesn't matter what type of diabetes. You could see improvements even to the extent of reversal in the case of type 2 diabetes. And that's why we focus on that root cause, right? That root driver of diabetes should be our focus, not parasites. Because unfortunately, okay, let's say there is a connection between parasites. You kill the parasite, you still have diabetes, you still have insulin resistance, right, to deal with. Okay. So going back to the immune system and autoimmune disorders. So type 1 diabetes is caused by autoimmune dysfunction or destruction of the pancreas. The immune system attacks the pancreas to the point where it can't produce insulin anymore. For type 1 diabetics, this usually happens very fast. That's why it's diagnosed in childhood or young adult. As a young adult, people are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Very rarely are they diagnosed later than that. But type 1 diabetes is a quick destruction of the pancreas by immune system dysfunction. What can cause our immune system to be dysfunctional? We know that there is connections between viral infections, and type 1 diabetes, right? There's no studies that that being said, there's no studies that actually prove a definite connection between parasite infections and diabetes. However, there is a connection between type 1 diabetes and viral infections, right? So that's one thing we should definitely acknowledge. Interesting enough, that being said, there is also studies that tie cow's milk, early exposure, in infancy, early exposure to cow's milk can lead to type 1 diabetes, according to some studies. That's a different subject, and a subject worthy of another live. So we'll definitely talk about that sometime. But I'm definitely curious if anyone's ever heard about the cow's milk and correlation or cause of type 1 diabetes. But yeah, there is definitely a connection between autoimmune disorder and type 1 diabetes. Now, we also should talk about what I said earlier: latent diabetes in adults, that's a more slow, progressive destruction of the pancreas by the immune system that manifests itself usually later in life and often leads to insulin dependency. It's still a rare diagnosis. More often than not, you're going to be diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. If you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it's going to be the more common one, that's early onset. But there are a small subset of diabetics are that later autoimmune dysfunction. The good news about that is that that can be diagnosed. Okay, so that can, your doctor or your endocrinologist can actually um, order certain labs that can diagnose you with what autoimmune dysfunction leading to this diagnosis. And the only difference really between type 2 and type 1.5, as some people call it, is that you may need insulin, right? No matter what changes you make to your lifestyle. But still, even this type of diabetes can be improved by making your body sensitive to insulin, right? By eating a diet that's low in fat and rich in whole plant foods. Okay. So that being said, there's also another very rare type of diabetes, and now I'm really going to start to confuse you guys, right? Because I just said parasites have no cause for diabetes, but there is a very rare type of diabetes caused by a physical or direct harm to the pancreas. So when someone has pancreatitis from, let's say, a parasite, very rare case where a parasite can cause an acute pancreatitis, leading to chronic pancreatitis and a very quick destruction of the pancreas, someone can develop diabetes. All right. But this is a rare condition. You're going to know if you have pancreatitis. Okay. I've diagnosed it several times in my career. And every time you send someone to the hospital, it's an emergency room. Okay. And you're diagnosed with pancreatitis that very hour. Right. And it's almost life threatening. Okay. A lot of symptoms. So if you're concerned about that, trust me, you would know if you have pancreatitis. That being said, still, parasites are not a very common cause of this pancreatitis either. Right. So all that to say that there is correlation, right? And there's causation. And there are many factors when it comes to being diagnosed with diabetes. It's a multifactorial disease for sure. If I were to rank the factors, I would say number one is diet. Okay. Number two is probably genetics, making you more, your genetics making you more prone to developing something you're susceptible for. Um, and why I put genetics second is because, as the saying goes, genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. So it doesn't even matter if you're genetically prone to diabetes. Like we know from I think it's called pronounced Pima Indians or Puma Indians. They are genetically prone to diabetes, yet depending on their lifestyle, it never manifests. Okay, so that should give everybody hope. There are, even though there's other factors like the environmental pollution around us, toxins, parasites, right? Infections, young, and when we're young or old, chronic inflammation. We know all these things make us susceptible to diseases like diabetes. But no matter what you are, your susceptibility, no matter your risk factor or your genetics, I want to give you hope tonight that you can turn things around. You can improve the state of your diabetes health, even to the point of reversal, with a simple but consistent lifestyle change. And that's what we teach on this channel. Because if you're worried about any toxicity, what we need to be worried about is the root cause of insulin resistance. That is ectopic fat toxicity. The fat in tissues not designed to store excess fat. This toxicity is what leads to insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes and the worsening of type 1 diabetes, right? And this can be reversed. This is the hope that we have. The fat storage in tissues not designed to be store excess fat can be reversed, right? By eating a diet that is low in fat and rich in whole plant foods. Not only are you getting rid of the fat that you wear, but you're also keeping your body low in a low fat environment by watching the fat you eat, right? And if you have the goal to reduce medications, drop your A1C, and even to the point of reversal, but you've been struggling with it, and you're looking at things online that are confusing you, misdirecting you, guiding you in the wrong direction, right? Then this is a place you need to be, right? So join us every Monday as we reveal the truth. We're always going to show you what's evidence based. But if you need more support than that, then we always have the opportunity to sign you up for coaching sessions. Sometimes people need the one-on-one support, right? Because doing it alone is hard, right? But traveling the road with a friend makes it so much easier. So if you are someone who's been struggling, who's been just confused, just trying to do all the right things, but nothing's really working, then go ahead and check the links in our bio section. Sign up for a free consultation and let's talk. Let's see what we can do to get you unstuck and guided towards the right direction, right? And it's amazing. A lot of times it's just one or two things that we need to do better, right? And that you can uncover during these calls. So, as always, beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. We'll see you next week.